Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night to everybody. Welcome back to another week of the Simple Plays. I'm your host, your quarterback, the one who herds the cats, as I call it sometimes, Sid Thompson. Good to see our Rev. Kevin Reinhardt is back off of the IR. Glad to see you back there, Rev. Let's toss it over to you right out of the chute and do what you do the best. Let's talk about who we have on here tonight as part of this crew.
Well, Sid, we've got former West Haven High School star, World Bowl champ and Super Bowl champ from the Pittsburgh Steelers, Euless Booker. We've got former Jeff City J, Missouri Tiger, 10-year NFL vet, and former Kansas City Chief, Steve Martin. Those are our pro hosts tonight. Our stat man is the guy in the back, but he's not the guy always in the back. He'll be coming up front to drop some knowledge on us. A man who spent more time in grocery stores than Kurt Warner, former Chaska Hawk, Brian Newdall. All of the graphics tonight are brought to you by Bison Graphics. Go to Bison Graphics for all of your graphic needs. Tonight, from Boston Latin School, circa 1635, he's our pilot. And the one will be taking you on this flight into the wild, wild west of the NIL. We want to welcome former coach Al Borges, who will be our guest tonight, as we allow this little voice in your head, that is me, to go ahead, tell you to turn it up, turn it on in, and let her rip. This is the Simple Plays.
Very well done. As always, and coming off the IR, nicely done, Rev. Nicely done. Kudos to you. Well, guys, let's start it off. I know we mentioned that we're going to have a guest tonight coming up shortly. That's Al Borges. We'll talk about him in a few minutes, but let's just go around and talk a little bit about this week in sports. A lot of things happening. I know one thing, which was some signings. There was a outrageous signing in the NFL, I think, kind of putting the old clamps on that team with that signing of Mr. Donald. But also a new owner going to be coming into play with the Denver Broncos. The Walton family's getting involved. They're going to own everything in there in Colorado. And I'm going to throw it over to Brian. Brian, let's talk about those two topics right out of the chute. You've got that stats on that. What can you tell me about what's going on in those two things?
We actually have breaking news.
Breaking news. Oh, all right.
Cooper Kupp just signed a 3-year, $80 million extension as 12 minutes ago.
Oh, man.
Got that on my.
Run that by me one more time.
Cheers to him.
80, 3 years. Holy cows, wow. Right.
Let me hold on to $20K.
Is he worth it? Is he worth it? Let me twerk it.
I'm worth it. We talking about him? I don't know about him. I'm telling you, I'm good for that $20K. I'll hold on to it.
They're all in it. They have to.
That's crazy.
And
And just to go back to Steve, we ain't even talking about Vegas money, Sid. You better start herding these cats because we're about to go off.
Yeah, get back to the topic I have. So Brian, you said Cooper's got this crazy deal, 3 years, $80 million. What about the other signing on that club? Let's talk about that one too.
Aaron Donald signed a 3-year extension. So here's the breakdown on that. He's gonna get $9.25 million for 22. He's going to get $65 million for 23, and he's going to get $95 million for 2024 in cap hit. That's insane.
So what's his total? You said
a lot.
Yeah, 3.
145, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of coin.
Man, but somebody already did.
$160 million for basically 2 years.
Wow. We know not, but how much of that is guaranteed? I mean, that's the thing you guys know with the guarantee. There's always those back end things, but still, that is some crazy coin. Those guys are
with that kind of money.
Hey, no doubt. They're in it. They're in it to win it. And after that, then I think it's going to be because you can't put that much money down on a couple players and not go for another back.
That year, for sure. They're putting stacks on that year because they know they've got a window, and if they're going to close that window and make sure they can get to the show. They're going to have to, do a few, hey, guys go out and did it. They've been doing it for 30, 40, 50 years now. back in the day, they picked up Joe Willie Namath for $100,000 in a mint '68 Cadillac.
Crazy
So,
to think of that now, then and now. It's nuts, man. It's nuts. Talk about inflation.
That
Let's
is
go over
the
what.
highest contract. And then, I mean, look at his stats from last year. He had 4 fumbles, 12.5 sacks, 84 tackles. I mean, there's no debating that he's one of the best, if not the best player in the game. But I mean, what are you gonna do with him and Cooper Kupp now making all that money? How can you keep Stafford? How can you keep Ramsey? I don't know.
Yeah. Like I said, maybe we can get him. Go ahead, there, Book.
I can tell you this: they ain't going back to the Super Bowl. That's number one. Number two, Donald's got 1.5 good years left in him. All right, Cooper Kupp, we're gonna find out what he's really made of, because guess what? Those guys on the other side of the ball, on the field and up in that box, they get paid too. All right, so I think it's nice, it's cute, it's pretty. Hey, but let's look at the teams that have a successful tradition for winning. That ain't what they do. Sorry, that ain't what New England do. That ain't what Pittsburgh do. Okay, so let's call it
dead on the money.
Huh?
Dead on the money. You're correct.
You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's good for breaking news. It's good for conversation's sake. Hey, I'm happy for those guys. You know, never hating on another man's money. But let's face it, Aaron Donald, how many years can he play at a high level at the size that he's at? He's not a big dude.
But keep in mind, a lot of times when you get these big deals, it's not for what you're gonna do; it's what you've already done. He's already done it.
He might be deep too. James Harrison, that dude still. I mean, he's bench pressing.
A Buick
3-4 stacks and cement blocks every day. I'm on. When I check him out on TikTok, I'm like, retire. I mean, go eat but that's what got me in trouble this week. Go eat a ho-ho.
Yeah, we don't do those at truck stops there, by the way, Rev. So, but anyway, we digress. So let's move on to the other topic there, guys. Let's go. Yeah, don't get sushi at the old truck stop. Let's go to the other topic, gentlemen. We talked about the Broncos and the Walton family. Brian, what do you know about the valuation? That's going to be the most expensive purchase of, I think, any franchise in history, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, according to Forbes, they're actually 10th in value, so they're not even, they're outside of the top 5. But they paid $4.65 billion, and last year at the end of the season, the Broncos were evaluated at $3.75 billion. So they overpaid by almost almost one and a little bit more than a half billion.
Do they change the colors to yellow and blue?
Probably.
Who knows? Hey, but what's another billion here or there when you're worth how many billion? Like 90-some billion? Doesn't matter.
They might have a few blue light specials there in Denver one of these days. I think they're taking a lot of it. I think they are one of the highest that, as far as being paid for a franchise. And with that said, like the Cowboys, the New England Patriots, those are the Pittsburgh Steelers. Tip my hat to Eulish. Even the Hunt family of Kansas City, they've owned for so long that if they went to sell, the evaluation would probably be the same, if not greater, and probably greater due to the rings.
I think that deal happened the way it happened because you had so many other things going on. You had what's the guy Robert was it Robert Smith? No, Robert Smith, the hedge fund guy, the black hedge fund guy. He was in the race first. Then Byron Allen got in the race, and then so you had all of these people, kind of all these flies hovering around, and the Waltons just stepped up and went above and beyond what everybody else could do or was willing to do to just kill all or any type of. Because let's face it, the league wants to get black owners. They want to get, they they're trying to push the whole narrative, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so the Waltons just stepped up and basically pissed on everybody else that was teeter-tottering, nickel and diming around. Okay, you guys want to be owners? Okay, we really want to be owners. Take this $1.5 billion over ass.
Like I said, when you
broker, check.
Well, we could talk about that again all day as well, about valuations and money. When you have that much money, maybe they could throw us some money for a couple nice new computers.
My $20K. I don't know about y'all. Y'all are your.
All I want to know is maybe we can get Brian a new computer over there. One of them, so we don't have that snap crackle pop. Just kidding, Brian. But anyway, we're wanting to make sure we got in the work in the works. He's waiting in the background, Coach Borges. So just a couple other things. Let's just kind of touch on these briefly because we got Stanley Cup going on. We actually got Colorado, another Walton team, by the way.
Yep.
They own the only team they don't own right now is the Rockies. I had to bring it up because I'm a hockey guy, but it happens to kind of fit into the topic of who owns who. But also we got the NCAA, the women and fast pitch playing tonight. We'll talk a little bit about that in our NIL topic at the end because one of those teams is probably going down as the best ever in Oklahoma. But they can get beat. We'll talk about that because I bumped into a Hall of Fame Division III fast pitch coach earlier tonight. And we gabbed about that. So, guys, do we want to any other thing else before we jump into it? I want to make sure we get as much time as possible with Coach because he's got a lot of things to talk about, his book and such. And let's just give it another minute or two around the horn. Anybody else real quick before we jump in with him?
Well, I can tell you that it was in 2006. Excuse me. Yeah, 2006 on June 7th. So what was 16 years ago yesterday? The Ravens acquired Steve Air McNair from the Titans in exchange for a 2007 fourth-round pick.
That's interesting.
Steve McNair. Now he's no longer with us, if I remember too. Is that correct, Reb?
Yep.
Yep, the pride of Alcorn State. That's right, and one of my favorites.
He's a big dude and was hard to tackle, boy.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't think he gets enough. I don't think he gets enough accolades talking about him. So, why don't we do this? Why don't we go into because I've been kind of keeping track here. Our guest, and Brian, you've got his background here. Why don't you pull that up, Brian? Around there? I think
you just lost Brian real quick.
You just lost Brian real quick. So I know.
Let's bring him on, and we'll start talking about the book, and then we can do the intro kind of later after Brian gets things worked out at the cabin.
Yeah, that sounds very good. So, Zach in the background there. There's Mr. Borges, former OC at Auburn, Michigan, and UCLA. Are you there with us? There he is. There's the man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah, the man, the myth. That's a great picture. You know why? Because that was about 16 years ago, man. I like that. Keep showing that one, man. Don't ever even put my face on the air. Just use that one. Not that I'm great looking.
Suit and tie, got the beautiful tie there, those colors. You notice what color I'm wearing. I put some orange on tonight for you here, so I got some orange. We're going to talk about that.
A pig in a suit's still a pig, man. I don't know.
So let's just jump right into it. Yeah, Rev, what do you want to jump in? Just jump right in. Let's talk about the book. I mean, let's get on it right away.
Sure.
A lot of times folks, they bring guests on the show, and the last thing they get to pitch is what they're on there for. I said, hey, let's talk about the book. Yeah. Let's talk about 2004. And obviously that team was absolutely stacked. I mean, I realize you guys did a little coaching, but when you had Ronnie Brown and Cadillac Williams and Jason Campbell and Jay Ratliff, I mean, it makes it a little easier, doesn't it, Coach?
Yeah, you get real smart real fast when you got those dudes, man.
That's right.
I was in Indiana, and my IQ was about 2. I went to Auburn, and my IQ just shot through the roof.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt. I mean, but I'll tell you something about those guys. So, and I talk about this in the book, is it was not just talent. It was talent. Don't get me wrong, because you can't get to first base without it. But those kids were unselfish. The high-profile players were unselfish. They didn't seem to care who got the credit, and they were tired of losing when I got there. They'd had expectations that were beyond what they met, and they decided, Coach, guide us, give us a chance. We want to win. And they gave a lot of stuff up from accolades-wise to win 13 games. Now, at the end of the day, it all paid off because, Ronnie Brown played a little fullback, which he'd never done in his life. But because he caught 35 passes, they drafted him second in the draft, which he'd never done. They found a skill that he always had, but was never explored. So that was just a huge part of the whole deal.
Now, Coach, can you talk about? I know you wrote a book before this. Now it's on quarterback, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. So truly, what was really the background, the motivation for you to take and come out with this book? I mean, besides, I love the title because 13-0 and you don't win national championship, something's wrong there. But tell us about that. What really pushed you to get behind this?
Guys, this is what's funny, Sid, is I didn't have a book on my radar. I wouldn't write a book. I took my kid back to Auburn to see the Iron Bowl because he wants to go to Auburn. He's 17 years old. He's starting to look at schools. He's about 4 or 5 when we were there, but he never lost that passion for Auburn. All his buddies are Michigan fans, but he's watching Auburn baseball, basketball, football. He knows recruiting. He's just on it, So I said, you know what? Let's go. Let's try and pick the best environment to see the school. And I couldn't think of anything better than Iron Bowl. So I took him back there to watch a game. Had great seats. Tim Jackson, associate AD there, got us great seats. But when I got there, I did a radio show with Jason Campbell and Ronnie Brown. But it was like I never left. I mean, I had fans coming up to me in my seat, coming up to me as I'm walking up. I mean, it was just, it's great for my ego, But when I got home, I got to thinking. I said, well, number one, my son really wants to go to Auburn now, But number two is I got to do something for the fans, And I said, I'm going to write a book. I had written a book back in 2000, but that was more of a manual than it was a book. It was just, basically telling people what you know about playing quarterback. And I don't want to undersell it, but it wasn't compelling other than that. A woman wasn't going to read it. Anybody that wasn't especially interested in that wasn't going to pick the book up. This was a different story. Now, this was a book that was going to require storytelling, some anecdotal stuff, some real thought, to make it an entertaining book and compelling and all that. So I said, I'm going to hammer it out, see how long I last. Okay. Because I may do 2 weeks and say, I don't do this anymore. But it just wrote itself, guys. It was unbelievable. I started writing. Honest, 3 weeks, I had a rough draft. Now, what I did is I went back, I had kept the DVDs of the games, and I went back over every DVD after I wrote it to see if I missed anything. Well, man, when I watched those DVDs, I could have wrote another book. I mean, there were so many things that triggered.
That may be in the works.
Yeah, well, when you're coaching and there's a timeout, I use this as an example. And the guy comes to the sideline, I can see myself talking to Jason. I knew just what I told him. And then halftime, you can tell if you watch the game what the demeanor of the players were based on how you were playing. And I can remember almost verbatim what I told him. So I just almost rewrote a lot of it, So that was huge. But the big thing is I wanted to give them a depiction that came from a coach, okay? Not, I ain't Ernest Hemingway, all right? I'm a long way from it. So I decided I am going to be as authentic as I can. Now, that means sometimes a little cavalier language, okay? I said what I said. I put in the book what I said at the time, and sometimes it's a little PG or an R, but I just wanted to be authentic. I don't want to be a fancy writer. I wasn't going to be artsy. I wanted to make sure I told the publishers, don't edit this stuff out now. I mean, if you fix the sentence structure, if there's punctuation screwed up, obviously I don't want to look like a moron, but don't edit out anything that's coachy, So the book is written by a coach, and you're going to figure that out. As soon as you open the first 5 or 6 pages, you're going to see right away, this guy was a coach, wrote this book, So if that's attractive to you, great. If it's not, you may want to use it as a doorstop. I don't know, but buy it. So I get, it still works out good. You use it wherever you want once you buy it, but that's really it, and here's another thing is we had my transition to the South, any of you guys that have lived in the South or from the South, I'm from California, man. I'm about as far from Auburn, Alabama as you can imagine in more ways than just miles. I mean, it's, so the culture change, going and then, I call it my cousin Vinny moment. I went in, I was like Vinny Gambini, man. I didn't know how to dress. I didn't know how to talk. I cuss too much. I'm wearing Hawaiian shirts. They put grits in front of me. I can't figure out how to make them taste good. I mean, every time I see that movie and I see him eat grit, I think of when I was in Alabama, you know. So I had to transition a little bit culturally, as much as I did coaching wise, you know, and so it was it's an interesting deal. I'd go over my relationship with Pat Dye, who was kind of pushed out now after 2003, because 2003 was really tumultuous. Tuberville damn near got fired, and I came in on the back end of that. I didn't go through that, but I saw the scars, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? So went through that, and then just take you through spring ball. But the thing I sell, this is how I really sell it. I'm going to take you in the locker room. I'm going to take you on the sideline. I'm going to take you in the huddle, and I'm going to take you in our meeting rooms. Okay, it's kind of a hard knocks in writing, but I don't stop the camera much. You know, I keep the camera going, and I tell you some things. It's not a tell-all book, but it is honest. It is, like I say, authentic, and it's the best I can remember, and as straightforward as I can make it.
Now, how did you come up with the title? Because I know when we talked to Steve about you coming on, he says, "Well, he's still working on the title." When did you come up with that? How did that come about?
I can't. Here's the deal. This is weird. I thought of the title quickly because it was natural. It's a play on words. Deny the tiger, eye of the tiger. You know, that kind of. And I forgot it. I forgot the title. I started writing a book. I go, because I didn't, like an idiot, I didn't write it down. Okay, I forgot it. And I said, "Oh man, I had a great title. What was the title?" So one day, about 3 weeks, I'm already into the book now. I'm still trying to think of what the title was. I'm driving down the road, driving down Highway 12 down there. I go, "Deny the tiger." That's it. Deny the tiger. That's the perfect name for what it is, because it's about us getting denied the opportunity to play for the national championship. Later on, getting denied the championship, even when SC got their hand caught in the cookie jar. So it really fit. I thought it fit. And the book kind of builds to a crescendo towards the end, where I kind of make an argument for why we should have got to play for it. Not so much after the fact, not so much about, you know, now we should be the national champions, but more back then. You know, and ended up the odd men out, you know, and then how disappointing that was, but that we still had to get our eye on the target because we have another game. And so that's really what it's kind of about. And that's how the title came about.
I think it's a great title. So, guys, why don't we, if you don't mind, Al, I'd kind of like to go back and maybe pull Brian in here and talk about some of the other places you coached too, kind of leading up to the book, because you talk about not winning a national championship there, but there was other times, if I remember right, UCLA, for instance, you were this close as well. So we won't hold that thought. I just want him to take and do some of the background, because you have one at like Portland State, if I remember. So Brian, can you bring those up? Were you close to it at D2 or?
This is why I wanted it so bad, guys. This is why I'm going to tell you something. I've talked about this much on any of the other podcasts, but this is what I want. I had been at Portland State for 7 years. We played for 2 Division II national championships in '87 and '88. We played North Dakota State in '88.
That's right.
Troy in '87. They were both Division II teams at the time. We lost them both. Good games, got beat. Okay, that was painful because there's nothing worse than losing something like that. Then we go to Boise State, who'd been down for a while now. They haven't been very good. Our second year, we go 13-2 and play Jim Tressel at where was he?
Youngstown
State, and we lose to them. So now I was so close. I mean, 3 times played for national championship and didn't win. Then a couple years later, I go to UCLA. We won 20 consecutive games. We got the best offense in the country. We can run it, we can pass it. I mean, I don't say that arrogantly. We did. We had the best offense, and the numbers would prove. We scored over 40 points a game 2 years in a row, and that was when there was no up-tempo offense. That was doing it, huddling up and doing it old school, you know. So if we beat Miami in the last game, we play. I believe it's Tennessee for the national championship.
Yep.
And we were supposed to play Miami early in the year, and the game was the hurricane. There's a hurricane that we got hurricaned out. Okay, so they pushed it to the back of the season. Well, early in the season, Miami wasn't very good. You know, I think we beat them pretty good. But we go down to Miami, and Edgerrin James runs right over us. But we roll up 678 yards, something like that, 45, and we lose. We lose. So now, oh man, I don't know what to do. I mean, what do I got to do to get this national championship? So now I get to Auburn. I go, all right, we got a team that can do this. You can tell me SC is good. I got all the exposure to SC you want. We played them 5 years when I was at UCLA. I know a lot about USC, but they're going to play to beat us because we could match them. We could match them. They had Reggie Bush. We had Cadillac Williams. They had Lindell White. We had Ronnie Brown. They had Matt Leinart. We had Jason Campbell. Our receiver core was solid. Our defense led the country in total in scoring defense. So I'm not saying they couldn't beat us, but they could lose just as easy to us. And it wasn't going to be 55-19 like it was Oklahoma. So here we are. We get to the end. We're the odd men out because we started so far back. We started at 17 because of the season before being 8-5, and the year before, 2003, they started top 5. But it was a disappointing season, and we kind of reflected our ratings. So Oklahoma and SC went wire to wire 1 and 2, and we were, like I said, we were the odd men out. So that was really disappointing. I just, God dog, I thought we'd have a real shot at one there. So it evaded me. It evaded me, but that was the team to do it. I really believe, of all of them, that was the most talented with as much what I call majestic synergy. That's what we had. That's my own little deal. I don't even know if that makes any sense, but it makes sense to me.
Yeah, it works for me.
You guys just nod your heads and humor me. All right.
Yep. Sounds great.
I was just going to ask, Al, when you go to a squad, usually you get that kind of tingle where there's something special. Where was the school at that you got it the easiest, where it hit and you went, wow, we got something really special here? Because, while most people, we talk about, runners up in the national championship, we forget them as quickly as, the year goes by. The real consequence of that is you've been very successful. So knowing when that happens and transitioning and how that transition kind of happens, that's one of the things I was going to ask you was, when did you know? Let's just use Auburn as the example. When did you know when you got to Auburn, Alabama, that we got something really good here, even after the big blowout with Dye and the transition to Tuberville?
Well, this is interesting. There's 2 teams that really stand out to me over my career that had that little deal. Now, I've been lucky. We won 5 championships in 7 years at Portland State. We won championship at Boise State. We won 2 championships in the Big Ten, and then we won one in the SEC. So there are a lot of good teams. I don't want to shortchange any of them. But sure, if you want the feeling you're talking about, Rev, is it happened at Boise State. Wow. We lost the last game. That team, they called it the Magic Carpet, right? Because they didn't have the kind of talent. They should not have been in the national championship, but because they had a little magic to them, we won 13 games and got to play for it. But at Auburn, that's a different deal. You got a mega talent now. We got guys all over the place who can jump over buildings, and they have that magic. But as you went through the season, if you asked me when I felt it, there were 2 to me, and there were 2 times during the season that gave me a hint this team was something special. Number one is when we beat, in the 3rd game, we beat LSU. But we had not hit our stride offensively. We beat them 10-9, and it was I called it in the book, I called it a fist fight disguised as a football game, because that's what it was. It was 2 teams just knocking a crap at each other. Sometimes it just wasn't pretty, but we won, and we won barely, and they'd won the national championship the year before. So that told us we could play with anybody, okay? Yeah. We could play with anybody. Now, when we beat Tennessee, this answers your question. I gave you a real long-winded answer because I talked too much. But when we beat Tennessee, we took them apart in Knoxville, okay? The world record for least amount of times Rocky Top was played. We beat them, I think it was 34-10, and it wasn't even that close. Because we kind of ran a clock out in the second half. I knew then we could beat anybody. Before I said we could play with anybody with LSU, but now if we can do that to them, backyard, this team can beat anybody. And bring on all comers. We can beat them. We can beat them because we were then hitting our stride offensively. We've been playing well defensively the whole year. Our kicking game was as solid as a rock. We just didn't have a lot of weaknesses. You don't get teams like that very often where you could say, man, there's nothing you can really exploit on us. So.
Right. Coach, you even had the nickname the Gulf Coast Offense for that team.
Yep. I was just.
I know. That thing follows me. Well, I cut my teeth in West Coast offense. I mean, I was running West Coast offense back in 1986. I was running West Coast offense before John Gruden, before Andy Reid, any of these guys, that are the West Coast offense gurus. I started studying West Coast offense back in 1977. Okay, back when Bill Walsh was at Stanford. Now, I wouldn't call that, guys. That wasn't this West Coast offense thing came in this name came in the early 90s. Some guy wrote a book, and from then on, it was a West Coast offense. But I had studied it because I lived in Salinas, California, which was 50 miles away from Stanford. Some guy named Bill Walsh, who I'd never heard of, got the job at Stanford, and I went up and I wanted to learn the passing game. And who better than this guy? So I followed him, watching him with the 49ers. So I was always the guy. I was the West Coast offense. We had a little cult of guys that used to exchange films, and so we all knew what each other were doing. And so when I got to Auburn, they had to. So I didn't come up with it. Somebody came up. This is the Gulf Coast offense. I go, all right, if that works, that's fine. I don't care what you call it, what you want. I guess they don't want West Coast too soft for people from the South, so they had to slap another name on it. So that works fine for me, and that's, I guess, where it came from. I don't know. Somebody said it in an article, and it's about
Oh, it's kind of a cool nickname. I have a question, Brian. You probably know you said you started at Salinas out there in California. High school, D2, and D1.
junior college
And JUCO.
Yeah, I started high school 7 years. Okay, I coached junior college at Diablo Valley College, and then I coached 2 years pro ball in the USFL. Okay, so I was logging 33 games in 52 weeks. Okay, with spring football, and I mean, not many guys done that. So I went there, and then I went to Division I ball. Oh, no. I went to Portland State, which was Division II when I left the USFL. Went to Boise State, which at the time was one AA. Went to Oregon. For the rest of my career was basically Division I. So I could say that by the time I was, 34, 35, I had coached every level of football you could imagine. I mean, I'd seen pretty much all of it, the top of the top and the teams that were running a budget on a shoestring,
Sure. So I guess my question is, in terms of the dichotomy from the wide range of different coaching levels, can you talk a bit about the difference, a high school kid versus a JUCO kid, the coaching at those levels, there's got to be totally different. I mean, the game's the same, but I mean, how do you handle those different ages and talent levels, and just kind of give us
really as different as you might think. Now, when you're coaching high school ball, you got to show the kids how to get in a stance sometimes, you know what I mean? And you still got to return to that even in college and pro ball. Hey, this is how we stand. But it's more from the ground up. I learned how to coach grassroots. My grassroots was in high school football because I had to learn how to coach every position. And then I've always taken a lot of pride in knowing something about every position, and I'm not an expert on anything other than probably quarterbacks because that's what I coach the longest. But I could tell you what the DBs were doing. I could tell you what the D line was doing. I could tell you what the offensive line. I always wanted to be able to sit in the meeting room, and if the offensive lineman took the wrong step, I could critique it. And the line coach wasn't going to look at me like, "Oh, here's a quarterback coach telling me how to coach it." They didn't do that to me because they knew I studied all those positions. I wasn't as good at it as they were at coaching the offensive line. I didn't pretend to. But if that guy took the wrong step or that guy blocked the wrong guy, I'll be damned if I was going to sit there and not know. My job is to coordinate that. And if I don't know what he's doing, I can't coordinate that effort. So I took a lot of pride in that all the way up. And what my biggest thing that helped me the most is when I was in the USFL, I worked on defense with Ron Lynn, who had coached 4 or 5 different NFL teams. And in the fall, I worked on offense. I worked at Diablo Valley. I was a coordinator. That's where I got my first coordinator job. So I got a little taste of both. And any time that the defensive coach would start cussing about something the offense was doing. Oh, they flipped the tight ends. Oh, they put both receivers on this. Oh, no, not an unbalanced. I'd write it down, man. I'd write it down. Oh, they don't like that now? Well, they're going to get that when I'm going. So that's how I kind of came to be what I was. I was single till I was 43. So I had no real life. Coaching was my life. I literally slept in the locker room with the Oakland Invaders. They had the barracks in there, and I slept next to Ray Malavasi, who at the time was a line coach for the Invaders. So he used to chew, and all his chew would come out the side of his mouth when he slept. But I still remember spending every minute on football. That's what I did. I had no life. I was a football coach. That's what I wanted to be, and that's what I did.
Got a question here for you too. Troy Gary wants to know: how was it working with Brady Hoke?
Awesome, great guy. Brady. Good thing about Brady is he's like Tuberville in that he's a defensive guy. So your autonomy is limitless. You can do whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? And he doesn't come into meetings and hey, what are you doing this for? He's got questions, and then the head coach is entitled to that. But he was really, really good that way in terms of letting you do your job unfettered. So.
Now you talked about the time. Let's ask you this, because I actually bumped into a Hall of Fame fast pitch coach earlier tonight in Division III, and he talked about he had offers to go to Division I and coach. He goes, I just the hours in terms of coaching. If you were to coach now, would you? I mean, if you could coach today, I mean, is it the time? It's just at your age? No. What possibility? Well, after hearing some of those contracts, these NFL guys are, hey.
I never used to ask that question. I never asked that. I didn't coach for money, but at 66, okay, and I'm not young. If it was just football, I could coach tomorrow. If it was just the players, I love the players. They keep me young. I always had great relationships with players. Sometimes I was an asshole to them, and I still had good relationship with them. And just the ball, the game, the fans. But the 14 and 15-hour days, man, I don't know if I can do that anymore. Yeah. That's the only thing. It's you just after a while it wears you out a little bit. I always kid about it. I say 66 years old, 15 hours a day. You do the math, okay? It's not for a guy my age. Although if a guy said to me tomorrow, "Hey, I'll give you $1 million to go coach blah blah blah," I can do it.
Yeah,
I can do it.
Yeah.
But
I find a way.
Yeah, no, and it wouldn't even really be for the money. But if you're going to do it now, they better pay you. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The way guys are getting paid now, they better pay you. But it's just at this point in my life, I got kids in high school. I'm an old fart, but I got a 17-year-old, 15-year-old, and I get to watch them do everything. And I get my football fix because I do a football Zoom with Michigan every week.
I was going to bring that up because of our MSU guy there sitting there by Sparty, Mr. Booker.
Yeah. You're talking about
Ulish there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Doggone it. I thought you weren't going to have him on.
Well, I have to bring – okay, I got to bring this up if you don't mind, Coach, because one of the things I was going to ask you, in terms of rivalries, we were talking before this, some of the rivalries, and you got to talk about the Michigan State rivalry a little bit.
The disdain. That's when I think of Michigan State. Of all the rivalries I've been in, and boy, there's some nasty ones now. You think about the ones I've been in. I mean, but of all of them, the team I felt, it's just my opinion, and this may not be worth it, that hated us, the team I was on the worst, was Michigan State. Hated Michigan. I mean, I just felt it with a purple passion. We'd go work a camp with them, with their staff. They wouldn't talk to us. They didn't even talk to us. I go ahead. I mean, but I'm not sure why, because I work Alabama guys and USC guys. Those are all buddies of mine, and usually the Michigan State guys are too after the fact. But at the time, boy, did they just! And when they played you, oh my God! And I see it today. When I broke down the Michigan State-Michigan game this year, they are playing so hard against Michigan. It's unbelievable, man. The D line is winning a lot of blocks up front just on effort, and toughness. And I just thought that they were, I did real well in rivalries for the most part. I did, out of the 3 major rivalries, I was 8-4. But Michigan State, I was 1-2. And I hit Michigan State probably at the pinnacle of they were playing as well then as they ever played. They had 2 NFL quarterbacks the 3 years I was there, and they were good. And Mark did a good job with them, to his credit. So I got a lot of respect for him, but I just know that there was incredible disdain between the 2 teams in that game, as much as any rivalry I was involved in.
I had to bring it up because our Spartan dog there, Ulish, he saw you wearing in that background. I think it's a green screen, probably. He said, that's kind of like that. He goes, I like that green behind you there, or something to that extent. So I had to bring it up.
I usually have a baseball field. My Giants, my Oracle Park's usually behind me. I don't know. It doesn't show up on some of the podcasts. It does on others. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing, but whatever.
That green is okay, Coach. The green is all right.
It's really kind of the wrong color, though, isn't it? You get a little darker green.
Yeah, well, notice that Book he put his screen so it was dark so he couldn't see him, so he could make sure he had his Sparty dog shirt on there. There it is. There it is. I would be Rit. I just had to bring that up. So, but
I know you did.
Guys, and I know I've been talking over everybody else. I mean, you guys, Steve, you've been quiet back then. I've been asking all the questions, but any questions from you, Steve or Bri? I mean,
yeah, the thing I can definitely embrace and understand what you're talking about is, I mean, we run the state title in high school 3 times when I was in high school. And it's just interesting hearing it from the college perspective of what it's like in that locker room.
Yeah. Did I lose him?
I don't know.
Froze up.
Yeah.
He froze. He froze. I lost him.
He's got to take and upgrade that connection he's got there.
Yeah,
the interweb.
We'll save that question. Does somebody have another one while we're waiting?
Yeah, Book, Bri. I mean, like I said, I got, that's just me. I'm always asking questions and talking. I got to be muted sometime. Book, did you have something for the coach there? Just want to make sure I get it from Spartan Dog there.
Yeah, I would, venture to ask in regards of time. Why so much time? I mean, I know now as an adult, but as a civilian, why is so much time given to watching the same? I mean, you could only check it down a distance so much and see if it read a Phil South defense, a 3-4 or 4-3. I mean, cover 2.
I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. I think we overkill it, and I always felt we overkilled it. You know what the problem is, Buck? Is today the technology's off the hook.
Yeah.
So there's always a film to watch.
Yeah.
Hey, let's stay till 9. Well, no, wait, let's stay till 10. We got another film. Well, let's rewatch the Washington game. Holy Toledo.
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me. And I got later in my career, right? I went home. I said after a while, but I'd go home, but I'm kidding myself. I'd go home. You know what I do? I do football. I'd start throwing extra a little bit. So I just couldn't do it within those 4 walls anymore. But you are exactly right. It isn't a 9 to 5 now. I'm not going to kid you there. It goes beyond that, but we probably overkill it. And a lot of time, I think coaches are a little scared the other guy might be out working them, and so they feel like they got to be there longer, which hasn't got a damn thing to do with whether you win the game. It's your efficiency, what you do on the field, what the kids can do, not what you do. It's what you can get them to do. That's what is the difference in winning and losing. And if you put efficiency experts in to monitor coaches, they giggle at them. They say, "What are you guys doing? I mean, it's 1 o'clock. Go the hell home."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What you're doing, anything after 8 o'clock is probably not productive. But you can't sell coaches on that. And
now, coach, in the league now, what they have is they have grad assistants that go back and it's like they go and check the coaches and what they did 10 years ago. If it's a certain type of coach, like when I was in Pittsburgh, they would scout the coach and go back to if he was with Cincinnati, if he was with San Fran. Well, this D coordinator was there. This is what he did when he's seen this type of look. I'm looking like, God darn, bro, like you got to go back 10. You go back 5 to 10 years to a whole other team, a whole other division.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, man, this is crazy.
No, that's a little insane. Now we would go back, but not like that. I mean, I'm a different coordinator than I was, 5 years before in terms of schematic. Some things change because your players change. If you watch me coach Denard Robinson, it didn't look anything like when I coached Jason Gamble. You're basically wasting your time.
Yeah.
So, but I would send a guy back a year sometimes, and if I couldn't find enough, I'd send him back 2 years ago. Go watch Jones when he coached at Mississippi and see. And you don't have to just tell me if it looks like it's the same theme of defense. You don't have to go and break the whole thing down again. I just want to know. I've done some of that, not a lot, but some of that where I'll go back. Or if let's say you're having trouble finding a defense they ran in 4-minute drill, right? What defense are they running in 4-minute drill? Well, there's coach I didn't got, but like one game they were in a 4-minute drill. Okay, then go back to last year and see if you can't find what they did there. Okay. So if we don't have enough information or enough data, then yeah, sometimes we go back, but not 5 years. I don't ever remember doing that.
You mentioned Campbell. Troy had another question. He was curious about his development and progress you've seen from him from the time he arrived at Auburn until he left for the NFL. So can you talk about him? And I know he's doing some color commentary and that and pregame and that for Auburn right now, but let's talk about his development over the time there at Auburn.
Well, when I got to Auburn, Jason was, you looked at him, he's right out of Central Casting. He's a 6'5" kid that can move his feet, had a great arm, quick release, smart, good pocket presence. There were so many pluses. He was a number 2 quarterback in the country when he was recruited, but he was playing in an offense that really wasn't very balanced. So he was throwing the ball in a lot of situations that were must-pass situations, okay? And that's not conducive. That's not quarterback friendly. So the thing I wanted to do with him, first of all, from a schematic perspective, was to balance the offense out and get him where he didn't have to throw every time it was 3rd and 9. You know what I mean? Number 2 was the psychological side of it, because Jason was, and he'll tell you this to this day, when he came in, that when I came in anyway, he was playing the game afraid to lose the game. He didn't want to be the guy that lost the game. You know what I mean? He would, so let somebody else lose the game. I'm not going to screw it. Well, to be great, you can't really think that way. To be great, you got to be the guy that's trying to, swinging hard, trying to hit a home run but using good judgment. It wasn't like you're cavalier, but our philosophy with him was let it rip. And I talk about this in nauseum in the book. You're going to let it rip. This is what we're going to do. You're going to play your butt off. You're going to be aggressive, but you're going to be smart. We're not swinging at any pitches in the dirt. If you throw a pick, you do something bad, I'll take the blame. They think I'm an idiot anyway. Don't worry about it, okay? So that's what we did. And he trusted me, and I trusted him, and he went through the roof in terms of his play. When he got to the NFL, he was an NFL skill set. He had that to him. He played on some teams that were pretty good. He played some teams that were average. He's always been a 62, 63, 64% complete. For my last year, he threw 69.7% completions at 10.4 10.4 an attempt, which is unheard of. No one does that. Yeah. Matt Leinart won the Heisman throwing 66% at 8.8 an attempt. So, but he's phenomenal. But in pro ball, he was a good quarterback, good solid player. Wasn't Tom Brady, but played in the league 10 years and was very serviceable. And at times he had some really good games, but never really got over the hump, I'm sure, like he wanted to, and never played like he played for us his senior year. But he still was a good player who guys had a lot of respect for.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks.
Well, that was a question I wanted to ask before I got my connection shot. When I was building towards, did you have a player that you truly bonded with, that you really feel like you not only took him to the next level, but got him to be the best he could be? Because I had that in my high school coach, and maybe a couple coaches here and there that helped along the way, but my high school coach really helped me pull it out. Who would you say were the guys that you really impacted, that you pulled it all the way out of them?
2 guys come to mind. Jason Campbell is one. He's definitely one. And all that was about was he'll tell you, he'd answer that question better than me, I think. But what he's told me and what he's told other people is that he knew I believed in him. He knew that I knew he could do it. I made him believe he was capable. And I didn't listen to all the noise, because when I got there, everybody wanted to replace him. I'd go to these talks, these deals with boosters all the time, because Auburn, you do them all the time. And everybody, you're going to take him out of there. He's so inconsistent. And I said, give me a chance to train the kid. I hated the Q&As because they'd always attack Jason. But then once he played that 2004 season and he gained the confidence and the leadership and all the things that make a quarterback great, he quieted all the critics. And then I had a kid at UCLA named Cade McNown. I don't know if you guys remember Cade McNown.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, yeah. Cade. Now, most people, this is what you might find interesting. Most people think that the greatest transformation that I ever coached anyway in a quarterback was Jason Campbell, but it really wasn't. The greatest transformation I ever had in a quarterback was Cade McNown. Cade McNown, my first year I came in was a sophomore. He very mediocre. He was in the Pac-10. He rated 10th in passing efficiency. He just wasn't ready for all the stuff we were ready to present to him, and was taking too much of the game onto his own shoulders. Okay. Well, what Cade McNown was as a college player was a mini Tim Tebow. Okay. He kind of even threw like Tim Tebow. He's left-handed with that long action, you know. He was as big as Tim, but he'd run around, jump over dudes. I mean, he'd do stuff that he could run the spread. We didn't run the spread, but he could run spread offense. He could zone read and do all that. We just didn't do it back in '98. But Cade went from number 10 in the Pac-10 to number 1 in the country in 1997. That quantum of a leap he took, and then carried it over into his senior year. So he really, as much as anybody, made the greatest transformation or metamorphosis, you know, from a very average quarterback to the best quarterback, or at least one of the best quarterbacks, a Davey O'Brien winner, all the things. He got a lot of accolades and was third in the Heisman. So he probably is the one, those two, the two that jump out at me.
That's pretty amazing. I'm glad you mentioned that, which leads me to a question. Kind of want to jump into kind of when we get into hot and heavy in the second half, but I'm going to bring up two things. How would you attack the NIL today? And then also the transfer portal. I only bring up the transfer portal right now because I'm thinking of Auburn. I think he was a 5-star quarterback, because you're a quarterback guy. Bo Nix. Did you follow his career a bit? Now he went in there high. I mean, you know, he didn't do bad, but I think he's going to finish up at Oregon. I believe he went to Oregon. So what are your thoughts on how the portal can be beneficial, but how it also can play into this NIL? You know, they say portal poaching, whatever. You know, got to bring it up a little bit, see what you think.
My knee jerk is when this transfer portal, I hated it. I go, God, the kid could just blow out of there if I push him to second team. I mean, you know, when I was coaching for years, our starting quarterback didn't play till he was a junior or senior sometimes. And then I brought myself back down to earth. I got to thinking about it. And I think a guy I work with kind of something he said resonated. He goes, you know, our coaches can transfer. And they do all the time, right? They blow out. So why can't the players do it? And I don't like it still, but it's benefited too many kids to say it's bad. Okay. A guy like Justin Fields. Okay. A guy like who's Burrow left. I mean, they're all over the place, right? Even really, this guy, these are just transfers. They're not necessarily portal guys at the time, but they left where they were to play somewhere else and did well, and it's happening every day. So this guy is a reality of football. This is 2022. This is the game now. Okay. So when you're coaching, if I was coaching today and I told somebody the other day, I mean, I like the transfer portal, but it wouldn't keep me from coaching. I just learned to adjust to it. So now you better know that you better have enough kids that if that guy does blow out on you, that you got somebody, you know, your stable is thick enough to where you can replace him with a capable backup, you know, because you don't want to get caught with your pants down because some guy takes off and then your starting quarterback gets hurt. And oh my God, there goes your season, right? And I'm just talking about one position. I'm talking quarterback because it's so critical, but this happens all kinds of positions, right? The guys are transferred from all kinds of positions. So you gotta know that there's a possibility you could lose a kid in a year, and it may not be because he hates your guts. He may like you. He may even like the program. He says, "Coach, I love you, but I want to play, man. I mean, I'm playing in front of an all-conference quarterback or behind an all-conference quarterback. I want to play." So, what do you tell him? How can you look him in the eye and say, "No, don't do that," when he's going to go someplace else and start? So that's just hard for me to do. So I'm coming around a little bit on that one. The NIL, it is interesting because I didn't know a hell of a lot about the NIL. I know the concept of it. I mean, that doesn't take a genius. But I sat yesterday with Lloyd Carr, a former head coach at Lloyd and I go to breakfast about once a month. Yesterday, him and I went over to his grandson's a big recruit. Okay, CJ Carr at Saline High School. And we went over and watched practice. I picked him up. We went over and sat, and we talked about NIL because he didn't do NIL either. But he says, he explained it to me, and really he knew it better than I knew it because I just haven't followed it great. But what is it about? Is it about using the NIL to get recruits, or is it about getting the recruits and then using the NIL? And I think that was kind of the conflict between Saban and Jimbo. Is I think, correct me if I'm wrong, did Jimbo sign five-star guys?
He had supposedly the top recruiting class. That's where that whole thing by. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's probably where the so and they got a lot of money. I mean, the oil money there, I'm sure, is huge.
30 million later.
Ugh, there you go. There you go. But Jimbo's right. He doing. I don't think he did anything illegal. Now it'd be illegal 2 years ago, but he did illegal.
Oh yeah. I mean, years ago it was coming in the back room in a bag. Now it's coming out in a Gucci bag. I mean,
yeah, there you go. I mean, all you five guys for all the head coach at Texas A&M. You're not going to exploit that. You're not going to take advantage of that to make your team.
I don't think he did anything wrong either, Coach. I think the issue is the denial of it as if it's something that's wrong. That's the problem I have. Listen, if we're doing NIL, hey, and your pockets are big enough to pay for it, do what you got to do, bro. And not, oh, well, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. Yeah, you did.
You did. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you again. I never agreed with an MXU guy so much in my life. But, you're right. Right. I mean,
that's why we're the simple plays, Coach.
This is the world we live in now. You understand? Right. I didn't deal with it. Okay, I missed it. But if you're gonna coach football in 2022, these are the issues that have to be dealt with. Okay,
that's right.
And the problem, and Lloyd was mentioning this too, I thought was interesting because you're going to have that money, you got to get it somewhere, right?
Right.
Okay, the people giving you the money have expectations.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So now it's not as though the pressure on the coach isn't good enough, big enough. Now it's going to get, the pressure cooker is going to get hotter. It's going to. He mentioned this yesterday, and he got my attention too. He goes, "You think it was bad now? What do you see now? You got some dude contributing X amount of dollars to the NIL. He's going to want to vote on everything. You know what I mean?" So I just thought that was interesting. So, but he kind of opened my eyes to a few deals.
Any other questions there, guys? I mean, I'm talking a lot. So, Brian, you've been pretty quiet. Did you have anything over there? Because I know we kind of
I know you mentioned Denard Robinson, and he set a lot of records at Michigan. Did you feel that he should have gone into the NFL, not a quarterback? I mean, you saw him firsthand. Could he have been a quarterback at the NFL?
No, I don't think so. I'd love to say yes, but no, he didn't. He didn't possess the passing skill you needed to play in the NFL. He knew that. Where here was the thing, though, is when he was drafted or before he was drafted, and they all came in and evaluated him. Almost everybody evaluated him to play receiver. Okay, there was really only one or two teams that evaluated and drafted him as a running back, and Jacksonville was one of them. And God love him, but Denard does not have very good hands. Okay, that's not his. He used to drop snaps from center constantly, but that was the good news because he'd usually pick it up and run it for 60 yards when everybody tried it. So, but his niche was going to be as a running back or maybe as a DB, because to throw the ball in that league the way you got to be able to throw it, he didn't possess that kind of skill. In our offense, here's the deal, guys. When you're coaching in college, okay, you can make it with some real playmakers. Tim Tebow, Cade McNown, Denard Robinson, guys who can make plays all over the field, outrun the defense. Their improvisational skills are off the charts. But when you get into the NFL, you cut those improv skills about 2/3. So now, because the defense is just too doggone fast, they're running you down when they couldn't run you down in college. The hash marks are tight. They're only 6 yards apart. So now every throw you make is a throw. You know what I mean? We're in high school or college, the hash marks are 40 feet apart. You can throw it into the boundary, sprint to the wide side of the field, shorten the throws, and a guy can make it. And then if he gets in trouble, just takes off and runs. But in pro ball, just a lot of that stuff doesn't apply. So if you don't possess that passing skill, that knack for passing, throwing the ball into tight windows and over the top of 6'5" and 6'6" defensive linemen and knowing that there's going to be coverage is going to be tight all the time, and you got to be able to place that thing and time it out right. And that's only for a few guys who can do that, you know. So if you didn't do that in college and didn't show a consistency in being able to do that in college, you're probably not going to be able to do it in the pros. So
I'd also like to mention too, I know I have here in some of the stats that I looked up, you were Frank Riles assistant coach of the year in 97 and 98. You were the offensive coordinator of the year in 97. And then in 2005, you're offensive coach of the year by Rivals.com.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, those things you pointed out. I mean, you have some pretty nice, good accolades behind you there, Coach. I mean, I'm glad we were able to get you on here. Now, I don't know how much. I was going to say how much you got for time here. I mean, we top of the hour. We usually bring Will on for a brief minute. Are you able to stick around?
Well, I will, but Tony, you guys aren't tired of me yet. I just figured after a while I'd exhaust you.
Well, no. We could talk ball. These guys, with Book and Steve, and then myself. As you can tell, I'm a talker. I'm the quarterback, but sometimes I'm supposed to herd the cats. Well, sometimes they got to herd me in. But no, I was just waiting to see if Will's going to be on. He's our super fan, and he was on a little bit last week. I asked you about Mike actually, because I think him and Troy had him on this morning, Mike Westcott, on their little podcast. So. I don't know, Zach, is Will in the background there? I'm not sure. We're kind of waiting to see what's going on. There he is. There's a man right there.
What's up, gang? How you all doing? Hey, Coach, it's nice to meet you.
What's up?
I'm just enjoying myself up here in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. 74 degrees.
Ooh,
all that
74.
stuff right now.
That's a heat wave up here. So you're no longer at the lake, I take it. You're back from up at the lake.
Yeah, I'm back from up in the lake. But I was in bear country. I was afraid of my life with bears, and then all of a sudden I knew I had my Viking stuff on, so anything Chicago named the Bears, I wouldn't have to worry about anything.
All right, sure. Ching ching. Okay, you're playing at the Holiday Inn Express later, and whatever.
But, anywho, so it was a fun time at the lake. I wanted to give a quick shout out to some of my super fan friends from the Arizona Cardinals. They are known as the Tailgate Warriors. They actually fed some of the homeless from the Aris Foundation down in Arizona, headed by Troy, my buddy Troy, Sherry, Veronica, and a few others that led that charge. And I think it's more than being a super fan than just dressing up on Sundays and getting loud, or on Saturdays in Coach's standpoint, because he coached college football at Auburn, Michigan, from what I've heard in the background as you guys were talking about Denard Robinson and all that good stuff. How was coaching Tom Brady, just out of curiosity?
Well, I didn't have Tom Brady, but my buddy who just passed away, Stan Parrish. Stan Parrish coached with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they won the Super Bowl in 2002, and was the offensive coordinator at Michigan when Tom Brady was, and coached Tom Brady. And he will tell you he's a big Tom Brady fan. I mean, Tom was a little skinny guy, and not a little, he's tall, but he's a little skinny guy, but had great passing accuracy and great leadership skills. And here's the thing I think is a little underestimated about Tom, because Tom run the 40-yard dash, he would drown running through a car wash, okay? But in the pocket, very athletic. He could move his feet just enough just enough to make the throw. Still does it. At 40, what is he? Was he 56 now? He could still move his feet enough to make all those throws. He's not a runner, but he has a way of moving just enough in that pocket and to find those windows to make those throws. So, but my buddy Stan would tell you he really enjoyed coaching Tom Brady and bringing him around when he had him from the beginning and saw him develop into a great player.
Now, Will, I wanted to know if you took his advice when we met with him Sunday. I think he mentioned to bring up Santana Moss, was it, I believe, in the interview this morning?
God, Santana.
Did you bring him up in the interview to Mr. Mike?
Santana.
Yes, I talked to Mr. Mike Westhoff about Santana Moss and how he was talking about evaluating Santana's talent and how he changed how the NFL offense well, not the offense, excuse me, special teams occurred when Santana was in New York. A specific game that was brought up was the Jets against the Buffalo Bills. I don't know if Steve is still on here because his
I'm here.
internet. Oh, you are there. You said your internet was really crappy, and putting it in nice terms. But anywho, he said something about the Buffalo game, how that was the greatest special teams performance in NFL history when you guys played the Buffalo Bills in opening week 2002. I don't know how much Steve remembers from that game, but
He brought us back. we were not. We didn't have a prayer in that game, and Santana. I want to say maybe 2 or 3 touchdowns or huge field position changes. We got buried back. Vinny threw a couple picks, and he just brought us back, man. The kid was amazing. He could take a dump on a lightning bolt. The kid was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
I know.
Oh, go ahead.
Because I know with Mike, we were talking about his book, Figure It Out, which will be on at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, major websites and retailers soon. But it's like matchmadebooks.com is where you can get that book right now. So that's really a nice place to get the book. It's called Figure It Out. It's 32 years of coaching in the National Football League. And I thought, just from listening to him talk about just some of his experiences, having 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks like Dan Marino, Brett Favre for that 1 year in New York, and Drew Brees from his time in New Orleans, how each of those quarterbacks have different characteristics, but similar characteristics. So I thought that was very interesting.
Well, you're talking to a guy. I know a thing or two about quarterbacks right there, Will. So as far as characteristics, what can coach say about that? I mean, what do you find that each good quarterback has? You talked about Tom, but
competitive fire is a good starting point. Depending on what his skill set is. If you're coaching Jason Campbell or Denard Robinson, in my book, I do a comparative analysis between the two, but they both had great competitive fire. If you're going to coach a quarterback you're dependent on being balanced, where he's got to make the throws, you know what I mean? Then you need a kid that has good functional intelligence and good passing accuracy. That's the starting point for the quarterback. Now, there's other things, there's leadership and toughness and all that, but he's got to be able to hit the target, and he's got to be able to take what he learns in those meeting rooms out to the field and apply it under pressure. Okay, and I always put that in there, under pressure, because sometimes practice isn't a game. When 100,000 people are watching, it gets a little dicier. So that's what a guy like Denard Robinson, who does it a different way. Okay, he's going to do a little passing, but he's more of a runner. So when you get a guy that's that good a runner, you have to tailor your plan to what he does best. And I had to completely shift gears because I never really coached a guy like that. Okay. You do what we call a lot more plus running, where we're leading with backs and 1-back formations and handling the loaded boxes that way, and more RPO stuff, where he presents not only the threat of throwing the ball, but pulling it out and running too, zone reading, those types of things where he has the option to hand the ball off. And if the edge gets soft, he can pull it and run, So you got to figure out where his hot buttons are, what his skill set is, and then tailor your offense or to make that work for each guy. But if you just picked one trait, I would say competitive fire, leadership skills, those types of things, because both of those guys, although different personalities, completely different personalities, they both had great competitive fire and a will to win.
What is the name of your book? I don't think I was here when you first.
You weren't on there, but that's that. We're gonna go ahead there.
Deny the Tiger.
Yes,
it's the story of the 2004 Auburn Tigers, who were denied the opportunity to play for the national championship, basically because USC and Oklahoma played. But and it's a build up to that. The title is kind of it all.
And you will have that hopefully on.
The same thing as like Mike's book. It'll be Barnes and Noble, right. Amazon. You can get it all the major outlets, and it's coming out in August.
So for sure, you're going to have it at that book signing on the LSU game, right? That's what you're shooting for.
I'm begging. Oh God, I hope so. But I'm sure we will. I've been threatening the publisher's life told him today, we got to move this thing now. I'm telling everybody we're going to be at the LSU game. So he's promising me we're going to do it. So
Now, can someone get a signed copy, by the way, before I let you go? Is there a possibility of doing that down the road? Love to get a
I got about a gazillion Auburn fans that have asked me that. I'm going to facilitate that one way or the other if you're not there. And it may be as simple as just telling me I'm going to buy a bunch of books and I'll just charge you the shipping on it, okay? And the cost of the book and the shipping, and I'll sign it and send it out, okay? So a book that may cost $20 may cost $25 if you want to sign, but it's more just for the shipping, not because I signed it. So but that's what everybody's told me to do. I'm a neophyte, man. I'm a coach. I'm not a writer, okay? But I'm asking everybody. I'm getting all these requests for pre-orders. I'm getting all these requests for signed copies. I'm going, I don't know what to do. So I asked
that's a good problem, right? Shows you that the interest is there.
Yeah, the interest, that's great, but you got to know what the hell you're doing. I don't really know, but somebody told me, okay, this is how you do it. So I'm telling you, I should have shut up. You'd have thought I knew what I was doing.
Well,
now some of your title codes could be author as well.
Exactly.
Rev, I'm a lot of things, but I ain't no author. Okay. And I'm not claiming to be one. I was talking to a guy last night, Kenny Simpson on Quarterback Academy. He's written about 5 books now. And Kenny goes, well, what do you think about being an author? Kenny, come on now, man. I'm not an author. Really, neither are you, if the truth be told. We football coaches, all right? And that's when I wrote it. I said, I ain't even going to try and be an author. I am going to write this book like a coach, and I'm going to talk like a coach, and I'm going to, just like I did out there, and I'm not trying to dazzle you with all my cute little anecdotal, John Steinbeck, Ernest Hemingway, John Gresham crap. I'm going to talk like a coach, and if you don't want to read the book, then don't read the book, but that's what it is.
Awesome.
I appreciate the title. I mean, I got to pump my chest out a little bit more saying I'm an author. I'm a Division I football coach, and I'm an author. Yeah,
well, we want to have you back on later in the year. Again, after it gets close to book, coming out. I know we probably taken a little bit more time than we anticipated of you tonight, but I love, appreciate you coming on, talking to us. And I know Will, he's on the tail end. Where's Will going to be? Are you going to be up in that? No, before I let you go, Al. Will, you're going to be over at BC's. I think Byron Chamberlain's got to get together next week. Is that where you're going to be?
So I'll be with Byron on Friday.
Okay.
17th. That is the 17th. If my calendar is right, I have to look at it. But Friday the 17th, I'd be with Byron, Robert Griffin, Bryant McKinney. Excuse me.
McKinney.
Who else is there? Chester Taylor and Robert Tate, I think, are the 5.
Okay. So, and that's this weekend there that we had Byron on last week. Talking about that. It's a Vikings Legends tailgate party right there. You can see it if you want. It's griff247.com/party. So I hope to be up there as well. So maybe doing a little hobnob. We'll get some videos. So want to make sure I got that plug in here for you, Will, because I know you had to get back at it. And we're going to take a break here and let Coach go so we can go start really delving into the NIL. Then we get a little done.
All right, man. It was great talking to y'all. And we'll do it again when the book comes out. How's that?
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. Great insight. Appreciate
it. My pleasure. It was fun.
Thanks, Coach, for letting me catch the tail end. I appreciated talking to you for the last 15 minutes or so that I was on here. So thank you for taking time to talk to me as well.
My pleasure.
All right. So with that note, Coach, thanks again. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, really delve into the NIL part of this. And like I say, I want to thank you again talking about the book and the 2004 Auburn Tigers. Like I said, wear my orange tonight. So thanks again.
We'll see you, boys.
Take care.
Thank you.
Spartan Global Network, a platform that will provide various types of useful lifestyle products and services that will help people in need. Spartan Global Network, in conjunction with Affinity Consumer Alliance, presents an online subscription-based platform that's bundle inclusive, based on level selection. Spartan Global Network provides access to unique insurance coverages for you and your family. Mobile phone breaks down? Our mobile rescue plan covers more than 15 common repairs and even water damage maintenance. Car broke down while on the road? We offer 24-hour roadside assistance to make sure that you are safe and covered in the event of an emergency while on the road. Going for travel? We are able to offer our members discounts on flights, hotels, rental cars, vacation packages, cruises, and more. So, what are you waiting for? Visit our website for more info at SpartanGlobalNetwork.com.
And we are back, guys. Again, want to thank Coach Al Borges for coming on. Man, we could talk for hours with that guy, guys. I mean, just wealth of information, just where he's
Yeah,
been.
he's awesome.
Yeah, and it's like you just throw him. It's like just you don't even have to throw him a question. You just throw him a little something, and boom, he rolls with it. And kind of like you, Rev, you got stories. I'm sure you can go forever, right?
Yeah, the problem is always you have to kind of calm down and just tell one while you don't go into three or four. That's always been my biggest problem. But listen, Coach broke it down just as simple, as matter of factly as we're sitting here listening to him, and what great insight about not only the game but the character, the kind of the some of those qualities that we don't see on camera, but you see off camera every day when you're working with these kids. And those are the stories, like you said, when he talks about who's the guy, everybody will point at Jason Campbell, and he pulls out Cade McNown. I wouldn't have thunk it.
Never would have.
Nope.
And at the same time, just said, you know what? That's a heck of a transition from 10th in the pack to number 1 in the country.
Yep. So, I think the one thing that came from that, and I think this is talk about sports and coaching. We've all played the game, coached the game, whatever, broadcast game, a number of different things. But from the game, that coach that can take and give you that confidence, say, hey, build you up. And I think that's what he took with McNown. We talked about going from 10th, then boom. That's crazy. I did not know about that about Cade McNown. I remember him being a lefty, and I remember that. And we mentioned Tebow, but pretty insightful. So
that's the thing, though, that I'm looking at, and I'm seeing as I'm listening to him, it's like he's inspiring me. Like I'm coaching my kids, and I'm trying to do best. I'm like, this is what the NIL has to shift to. You don't have a prayer if you don't have a coach like him that's coaching, because, like you said, you're looking at kids that could jump out the window for whatever reason.
Yeah. It's all about that mentorship aspect. So, but why don't we jump? We're talking about that now because I know we're kind of want to get back on topic here after the fact. Is Brian still there? Brian, are you still there, my man? We talked. I wanted to bring up something, guys, and I want you guys to talk about it. We keep talking about the toothpaste out. You can't put the toothpaste back in, but there was some talk in legislation. I think it was New York. Maybe you guys saw this. I don't know if I forwarded it to you now, but they were talking about banning, not the NIL, but collectives. Do you have that article, Bri?
Yep. So basically what it said is they just want to get rid of collectors because they want to control it. I mean, that's the gist of the article, but it's too late. I mean, they can try to control it all they want, but as Sid alluded to, you can't put the toothpaste back in the toothpaste tube. You can't. No. And they can try all they want, but they're just going to find other ways around it. So that's basically what it's about.
We don't call it the Wild Wild West for nothing.
Well,
something Coach pointed out too, that you're going to have these booster sponsors all of a sudden are now going to jump in and say, hey, I just gave your player $4 million.
Yeah, that's one thing. You talk about some of the parents in these communities, you hear all the time where they run a coach up because you ain't playing my son, I'm giving the school money. And we're talking high school. But with the millions now, let's say John Ruiz down there with Life, I don't want to give him a plug, but the Miami guy, he's got some big money going in. The Tennessee people, I mean, these guys you think they want to have a say. Before it was behind the doors. Now they're going to be all up front. So what say you guys about this whole thing? I mean, it's not going away. It's not going away. It's here.
How much does college football make for a university?
Oh my goodness! I think I saw.
Pay these kids what they're worth, because some of them, have career-ending injuries before they ever make the show, and a lot of this is about constructing the economics for a kid that's going to play future, so that they begin to understand what a structured contract even looks like. Because they come out of biology 101 and now they're stuck with economics 408. And there's no way that works unless these kids have some kind of a handle on money. And we know that that's one of the most difficult situations for anybody to deal with. but having that idea of having some kind of curriculum in place, as well as an affordable place to go and get the information, because there are places that are going to charge out the wazoo. We all know that. That they'll let the jackling begin, when it comes to the feed. But what needs to be intentional is not only what information these kids are given, but also the directive they're given. And I always piggyback on Eulish. Yeah, they need to get paid. The other part is this. Do they have to get paid their entire structured contract? The answer to that is no and maybe. And no and maybe means this. It is an individual or an independent decision on whether or not this kid is capable of handling their money by their 20th birthday. I know I wasn't. I'm just saying. We're talking about 20 for 20 at Taco John's until my gallbladder pops out. That's really what we're talking about, is how are these kids going to handle money earlier? And handling that money earlier is just as simple as giving them the information so they can handle the money. It's a tool.
Book, what say you, Book? That's okay. What say you, Book? You're the man on this one.
You're muted, Book.
Gotta unmute yourself there, sir.
You're muted.
Book's always good for a good rant here, but we gotta make sure we're able to talk to him unless he's got Zach.
Can't hear you, Book.
Man, oh man, Zach, you didn't have to mute him here. Our producer in the back end didn't mute him, did he? Book. Well, Book's figuring that out. I was going to point out, okay, so he's on his own. Something happened. He says, I did not. So, but anyway, Book, well, you figure it out. We'll get you back on there. I want to talk about one other thing, too, because I remember I mentioned tonight I bumped into a Hall of Fame Division III fast pitch coach. And he was talking about, I asked him, I said, what are you guys doing over there at NIL? What are you doing over there at NIL? He goes, well, nothing really right now. I think we're just waiting to see what somebody else does. And I said, well, that's exactly. And then the way I put it is, well, you better start sooner before you're behind. You're behind the 8 ball, before everybody else passes you by. Book, you got you yet? Can you hear it?
Yeah, I'm back.
All right.
I'm back.
All right, so we'll go back to my thoughts. So go ahead.
Yeah. Tag team, as what Rev was saying. The bottom line is, at the end of the day, the universities have to take this on and pay these players from a university perspective. That way, there's more control as it pertains to when the money is given out and doled out, and most importantly, protecting these players. Because at the end of the day, with this NIL thing, these kids are at the exposure of the mothers, the fathers, the handlers, the agents, the pimps, the drug dealers, the robber barons, you name it, they're all out there seething and drooling at the fact that, hey, so-and-so kid got $4 million for NIL. Well, hell, they're going to be sitting on the block waiting for the little sister, the little brother go to school, kidnap them. I'm talking about kids that come from the gutter, that come from places that don't understand money. You're giving them, in the whole world, the whole neighborhood, the whole hood know they about to get broke off. So you think they're just going to sit there and starve, knowing that little Ray that used to walk down the Ave, all the time, and they turn, look out for little Ray. He's sitting on $4 million now. Now, they don't know how the $4 million is distributed out. But what I'm saying is, if a cohesive message is put out as far as, okay, you get paid X amount of dollars, your money is deferred until you meet this criteria academically, on and off the field, on how you conduct yourself. The schools have to take charge, because I'm telling you, they are waiting for an NIL travesty to happen, and then they're going to come in like the Gestapo and control. We're taking over everything, and and it'll be back to the same thing, the indentured servitude. That's what it'll get back to. We told you so, and we're going to give them a stipend, and you got to get an A and a B and all of. Nah, man, could come up with a collective bargaining agreement that's fair for everybody. Defer the money until graduation. Give them a monthly stipend with an academic curriculum that supports understanding how money works, how credit works, how business works, how stocks works. You have to support the players and protect them. University. Forget the NIL. It's all at the university. Period.
Well said. As always, Book. As always.
I had a
So,
brilliant player. I just want to piggyback. Tell me in a room with 10 other players, if they had $100 million, they could 100% that for banking power. That would change the entire aspect of banking in the system, as well as the control of that money and that wealth. I think these are some of the things that are about to come forefront, because the only way that people are going to begin to understand the tools is to have the entire tool chest put out and pulled out, so they can understand not just your 401k, not just your pension, not just your salary or your prorated contract, but how that money will work for you today and in the future.
Rev, I want to say something, Sid, and I'll let this go.
No,
Look,
that's fine.
breaking news, 911, ASAP, stat, all of it. Let me make this statement and make it here first on the simple plays. If you are a Division I university and you say F the NIL or forget the NIL, if you're a head coach, mark the time that you make that statement until the time that you're fired. Because at the end of the day, the toothpaste is out of the tube.
Yes.
Luke Rockney is in the grave. Bear Bryant is in the grave. They're all gone. They're all gone. It's a new day. It's a new sheriff in town, and it's called the NIL.
Yep, and it's just too bad. I think it's too bad it's just taken as long as it has to get to this point.
Oh, yeah.
But the one thing I mentioned earlier when I was talking to that coach, and like I said, he's a Hall of Famer. I asked him about their division. Have you looked into it? And he says, no, we haven't. Well, I says, if they don't, you're going to get passed by. So they're going to lose out if you don't take advantage. Because I know that school over there, there's a wealth of alumni. And each school across the country, whether it's D1, D2, JUCO, whatever, they all have wealthy alumni that would, if they reach out to them as mentors, donors, whatever have you, they can benefit and help, even if it's a little bit here and there, especially at some of these JUCOs or these D2s, book money, whatever. It may be help a player.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing that what we're trying to put together here is the forum for which we can discuss these things to start bringing unity amongst the people, because the power is in the people. In that the universities are an organization already preset by the NCAA on how they're going to do rules and policy. There's a blank sheet of paper right now for the people to rewrite how this is done, but we have to be united. Don't get me wrong. I am not trying to take away from anybody. If you're a 6-star athlete and you can jump out the gym and throw like who knows body's business, by all means, get as much as you possibly can. Not trying to interfere with that at all, but I got tons of buddies, college pro, mainly college, that were injured severely in college and had no healthcare benefit whatsoever from the university. And they didn't get those injuries by playing chess in the commons. They got those injuries on the football field and in the baseball diamond and in the sport that they love. And the thing is that the biggest thing that people need to understand is this money is already there. It's always been there. This is not new money. This is money that's always existed. You're just changing it from giving it to the alumni or giving it to the school and giving it directly to the player. Yep. So now the players can benefit and really enjoy their sport at a much earlier age and have a benefit walking out of college in addition to their degree. Yep. Now, however each school structures it is how they structure it. But that's part of the reason why we got the link on our page now to just sign up. Whatever your participation is, wherever you come from, whatever your background is, as long as you have an interest in that school, or you have a kid going into the machine, sign up and we're going to connect you with groups that are going to be in your area, in your school, to help you, in conference as well, to help you find solutions to the problems. Because again, most folks coming into this, I came from a very working class family, fell into the machine and got gobbled up, and I survived. But there's a lot of opportunity I could have made the most of had I knew anything. You know, so that's the main purpose for us coming together and having these conversations, healthy conversations we want to have with coaches, players, administrative staff, and so on.
Yeah. And go ahead, Book.
Dare I say, players, families, don't fall for the one for the Gipper speech. Don't go to a school empty-handed for free just because, hey, the team concept, blah, 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 blah. If your guy's elite and, you know, and it's a slippery slope, you know, because I'm a team guy, I'm a moral guy, I'm an ethics guy, I'm an intangibles guy. But however, if your kid tears his ACL as a freshman without an NIL deal, guess what? It will be next. It'll be next up. The coach will come out on the field, whether it's the practice field, the game field, pat him on the head, talk to the trainer. next guy.
Exactly.
And you'll be empty-handed. So don't be that guy, because you can go to the league from any school.
Exactly. And Book, you know, I want to go back to what I was talking about with the transfer portal when we talked about this quarterback was a 5-star quarterback at Auburn, Bo Nix. You know, and like I said, he had a good career. But let's say, you know, if you got the NIL thing going and whatever, he's going to be at Oregon. He may be drafted, may not be. Who knows? He may be out of football after college. We don't know. But that's a prime example. He didn't pan out at Auburn. He's moving on to Oregon. And he was a 5-star quarterback. Half of these kids don't pan out at 5-star. You know, some of those guys that are 1-star do. But if they have the education, if they get the money,
that's
and they have
kind
the
of the point
education,
with Al. Like what the point with Al is that if you don't have a quality coach like that, you better have the talent, because you get the emphasis of the success of a player, and same with the coaches. The coaches are only as successful as the players are, but the coach has to be able to inspire that player to be something that they don't know they can be.
and that rolls over into real life. It's like anything else, whether you're in sales, trying to find your, you know, date your next wife, your wife, whatever. I mean, anything. Confidence is key. Different analogy there, but it's key.
Another guy too, Sid, is Spencer Radler at South Carolina. I mean, I still feel like Bo Nix is another one. They're just too talented. You're going to see that this year. Everybody's kind of writing them off because they switched teams, but boy, they're talented. Spencer Radler for sure is talented. They're so talented.
He said,
Yes, sir.
We can't not end the show and not talk about C.J. Stroud getting a Bentley deal.
I wasn't. Can you? Look, you brought it up. Go ahead, bring it to the world. I mean, it's crazy. Bentley.
Hey, listen. At the end of the day, you got to give the kid kudos for maximizing on his marketability. However, there is the gift and the curse. Can you deal with driving that gift down Euclid Avenue in Columbus at 12 o'clock in the morning, and the curse is that 45 in your face, attacking you? You know what I'm saying? As a grown, listen, I'm in Pittsburgh, Steve, as a grown man with my new 2007 Cadillac Escalade on ESV on 26s. I bought Heinz Ward's 26s from the truck he got in the Super Bowl, right? So, Rev, I'm in Pittsburgh, and I'm scared to death to drive the truck.
Take it out of the garage.
Yeah.
And I'm a grown man.
That's right.
One can only imagine what he's going to be doing. Maybe he only drives it on game days to games. But hey, speaking of, but you're talking about players, I want to mention one guy because I tweeted about him. And this is something we're talking about. The good thing about the NIL, this guy plays. Just want you to look him up. Raekwon Smith. They call him the king of NIL because you know what? He sent out letters to all these sponsors and got turned down. I think I don't know where he plays, but now he's got like 60 plus different NIL deals because the guy, Norfolk State, that's where he played. That's why I was thinking it was like a D2. But he is, I tell you what, I retweeted in our Twitter. I said, I would hire this guy to be on my sales and marketing team because that shows he's not a 5-star guy, but he is selling himself, taking advantage of NIL. And that's what's good about this thing.
And that's what corporations are into.
Yes.
Corporations are into people. That's why Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, you know who they hire? They hired retired athletes, okay, and they hired military guys. That's who they hired.
Because they have a work ethic and team ethics, and they know how, exactly. And there's that guy right there. Meet Raekwon Smith, the king of it. Look him up, and you know what? He'd be interesting to get on sometime because this kid's really got it going on. He's going to be somebody who's going to do something in the real world. So,
Jackson Howard just signed NIL. He's with Integrity, and I forget the other bank that they're going to be using, Fidelity. I guess it's about to go off in Minnesota because that's basically he's one of the top recruits in the state right now, and he just signed his NIL deal today.
Awesome. Well, it's news to me.
Well, Jackson.
So
and Willie.
There it is. Yeah, that screen a little small. We can't quite see that one right there because it's the size, unless I make it bigger. But anyway, so I don't know. We could ramble on against more, but I tell you what, yes, ending on the Bentley story was pretty good. But I had to make sure we had to get a Willie Howard. No signing. What's that?
Willie Howard, no signing.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I jumped the gun, Will. I thought you had already.
You said we didn't sign. We didn't sign. Jumping the gun there. Jumping the gun.
Jumping the gun. My bad, brother.
All right, it's all good. It's all good. But be that as it may. So anybody that's watching on the rebroadcast or watch live, the comments, like I said, please, by all means, send us a tweet, send us notes in Facebook. Let us know who you'd like to see on here. If you want to hook us up, talk to some schools, talk to some people that are going into school, parents, family. That's what we're all about. We're all about. I mentioned I talked to a D3 coach today. We're going to try to delve into some of that. We're going to talk into other sports. We're going to look at other things. Just got approved in Minnesota to do the NIL. Okay, just got approved. So that's good. Way be on top of things right there. Thanks, Way. Excited to connect. There we go. That's that thing about the live chat. You gotta like that, Rev.
We're gonna get you on, bro. We're gonna bring you on. We want to talk NIL a little
exactly.
bit, but more importantly, what your thoughts are on it, as well as Jackson's if he wants to come on. Love to have you both.
Absolutely. That's what we want to do. So spread the word, you guys. And we always at the end of the night we kind of go through the circle here. Steve is kind of hopping off. He said end it without him. I don't know if his connection's kind of bad, but thoughts on the night. Book, we start out with you.
Well, first of all, thank Coach Borges for coming on. Just a warm-spirited, good guy, good coach. I think I would have loved to have played for him as an offensive lineman, even though he has one poop stain on his resume outside of Auburn and UCLA. But other than that, don't forget his book, The Eye of the Tiger. And once again, you gotta love the simple plays because we hit the common man as well as the giraffes. So when it comes to sports and mainly the NIL, and I think everybody at the round table, the main thing is the main thing, and that's the right thing, and that's looking out and protecting players and putting out a fair and equitable perspective on all the things that we cover. That's why we're the simple place.
All right, Book. Thank you for that. Brian?
Well, you know who I want to shout out? I want to shout out the guy that got all this started. I want to shout out Ed O'Bannon. Without Ed O'Bannon's sacrifice going through court and whatnot, we would not be talking about NIL today. That is the reason that we are here, is because of Ed O'Bannon. I'd love to have him on the show. I'm going to reach out to him, so we'll see.
Yep. You know what? Those that came before us, they're these guys that are doing the NIL, they should be very thankful because you are correct. You hit the nail on the head on that one. Good job. I like that. Rev?
Hey, I'm just glad I'm off the DL. This segment brought to you by Milk and Magnesia.
Hey, we need a check for that, Rev. You need a check for that, bro.
I know. I'm working on it. I have them hollering at me. But, hey, I thought Coach Borges, great insight, obviously great personality. You can always tell when guys get back together, it's almost like you never, like he said, when I'm with my coach and friends and players, it's like you never, ever walked away or, were ever disconnected. It's harmony. And that's always a joy to hear. I think what's coming up in the next few weeks is we're going to drill down a little bit more with this NIL, and we're going to have some information for the people out that is going to give them the resources, as well as we got some things brewing in the not so distant future where we could probably hinge this with some strategic partnerships. Yep. And so I'm not only excited, I'm very, very hopeful in the fact that what we have is something that kids will need, parents will need, athletic departments will need, as well as those athletic departments. Women's softball. Let's not forget. When we're talking NIL, this isn't just about sports specific. Nope. It's about sports. Nope. And so it allows some development. It allows us to grow and adapt and adjust. And I think those are going to be some of the frequent things we're going to have to do. And we're looking forward to a great show tonight, Sid. Way to lead this ship.
Hey, way to try. So, Steve, Mr. Martin, your thoughts there? See how that interweb is working on your side?
I just want to thank Al because, I love talking to coaches that really love to coach because you can hear the passion in their voice about the people they were able to connect with and how they inspired them. And it's so motivating because, my relationship with Coach Reed, Coach Tobe at the Chiefs, these guys changed my life at a very critical point. And to listen to another mentor, which I'm sure Campbell would probably say he changed his life as K. McNown. So that's the big thing. We want to pull everyone together and say, hey, let's get this going. So please sign up. And we're going to start building these groups per school, whatever your school is, and just get your groups together, former players, former administrators, former support staff. You're all alumni, so you can help shape the way this NIL can work. We can take the Wild West out of it and make it a stable, fundamentally sound organization that's healthy, not one that is built on deception and the thievery that occurs all the time. You can't stop all the criminals. It's just inevitable. They exist. But you can teach people how to learn to deal with it. So I really appreciate everybody's input. Again, thanks a bunch to Coach Al. Can't wait to have him back on and look forward to next week.
Awesome. Hey, glad the internet survived for you there. I always appreciate your thoughts, Steve-O. So we kept the best for last on that one there. I'm glad you made it through. So, and my thoughts, guys, hey, again, we're getting better each and every week. I want to thank also those that chimed in. Great to see Willie pop in there at the last second. That was awesome. And Troy for his comments and his questions. Him and Will got a show going, so it's always good to cross promote each other too. It's all about, hey, we're in this, for everything. We're helping each other out, just like the show. And I can't say enough about Coach Borges. It brought me to think about. We talked about mentorship. The one thing that I think about when I think of Coach Al, and he talked about Kate McDowell. Crazy. I go back to my Pee Wee coach, my Pee Wee hockey. He picked me up every morning. If it wasn't for him, I go through wall for that guy. Toughest coach I ever played for, but you know what? Everybody I know, even the pros that played, in the NHL or whatever played pro, will say that guy, he made me who I was today because he pushed me, but he cared about me. And that's what this, you talk about the passion with Al. That's awesome. I mean, I can't thank enough for him being on. So hopefully we'll get, like I said, we're going to bring some other, we brought the other sports. Ironically, when you talked about softball, bumping into that D3 coach today, a Hall of Famer coach. And he's saying, hey, we're behind. We're waiting to see what's going to happen next. We're waiting for everybody else. So what? If you wait, you're going to be passed. So let's get those guys out there involved. And with you people watching, whether you have ties to a D1 school, D3 school, D2 school, whatever, don't be afraid to reach out. We'd love to hear from you. And utilize this as an arm to reach out to others, to help others, because that's what it's all about, right? And again, another week under the books. Next week, we'll see what we have on the pike. I'm sure we'll have some something up our sleeve with another good guest. Rev, book, we can all figure out. We got some good ones coming, possibly. Maybe something with Sparty, the Spartan dog. We don't know there, possibly. Maybe something.
That's confirmed. That's confirmed.
It is confirmed. Well,
We will have a Willie Howard connection as well.
Willie
So,
Howard connection. We got Sparty Dog with somebody up there in Spartan Dog their territory that can definitely open up a lot of doors for us. So looking forward to have him on. And then Brian's got his, and Steven. Cannot thank the guy in the background, which you didn't see on today's broadcast, who pinch hit for the Rev last week. Zach, I want to make sure. Thank you. Awesome job. Bison Graphics right there. We would be remiss if I didn't mention Zach. So that's enough, guys. I have rambled as much as I have in the 4 or 5 weeks we've done this. So, again, for all of everybody here, we appreciate it. So long, everybody.